We'd been planning that Christmas trip for months. Just three of us, me, Tom, and Sarah, all friends from college who hadn't managed to get together in years. Everyone had agreed we needed a break from everything. Work, noise, family drama. Just a quiet week in a cabin, deep in the Appalachians, where we could drink, play cards, and forget that the rest of the world even existed. Tom found the place online. It looked perfect. An old log cabin with a fireplace, surrounded by trees, the next nearest property miles away. The listing said it was called Black Hollow Lodge, though nobody could find it on a map. The owner sent directions by email, not GPS coordinates, which I thought was strange, but brushed off. The whole point was to disappear for a while. We left early on the 23rd. It was still dark when we started driving into the hills. The farther we went, the narrower the roads got. 2 lanes shrinking to one, the trees closing in on both sides. Fog rolled across the road like smoke. By the time we reached the final turnoff, the signal bars on our phones had already vanished. The cabin appeared out of nowhere, its windows glowing faintly through the snow, like embers under glass. By then, the temperature had dropped below freezing, and every breath felt like inhaling shards of ice. We were relieved just to get inside. The place was bigger than it had looked online. 2 floors, a long porch, and a fireplace already stacked with wood. It smelled faintly of pine and smoke, like it had been used recently. Someone had even left the heater running, which didn't make sense since the owner had said no one had rented it since the previous spring. Still, we told ourselves it was just part of the service. That first night was perfect. We cooked dinner, played cards, and drank more than we should have. The laughter felt easy, the kind that doesn't need effort. Outside, the snow kept falling, turning the world white. I remember standing on the porch before bed, listening to the wind move through the trees. A deep, rhythmic sound that almost felt alive. Sometime after midnight, I woke up. It took me a moment to understand what had pulled me out of sleep, and then I heard it. Slow, uneven crunching in the snow outside the window. Footsteps. My heart immediately started hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. I tried to tell myself it was one of the others, maybe coming back from the outhouse, but the sound didn't move like that. It wasn't casual, it was cautious, deliberate. I held my breath and waited for someone to knock or come back inside, but nothing happened. The sound circled the porch once, stopped beneath the window, and stayed there. I wanted to get up and look, but I couldn't make myself move. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, every muscle in my body tight, counting my heartbeats until the sound finally faded. In the morning, I told others what I have heard. I checked outside. The porch was covered in snow, but there were no prints, not even ours from the day before. It looked like the storm had erased everything. That day the mood shifted. Nobody said anything directly, but you could feel it. The silence that hangs after laughter has run out. Even Sarah, who never stopped talking, kept glancing toward the windows, like she was expecting something to be standing there. Later that evening, when Tom went to start the generator, he came back pale. He said the shed door was hanging open, even though we'd locked it earlier. Inside, one of the gas cans had been moved to the corner, like someone had been there after us. The snow was too disturbed to tell if there were tracks. We decided to double-check the locks and turn in early. It took me longer to fall asleep that night, partly because the wind was louder high and sharp. Every time I started drifting off, I heard the faint, dragging sound, like something heavy moving slowly across the porch. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but then I heard Sarah whisper from the next room, asking if anyone else was awake. Her voice was tight, shaky. I called back that I was, and a second later, a loud bang shook the house. Not thunder, not wind, a single heavy impact, like someone had thrown their full weight against the front door. Tom came running from his room with the flashlight, and we all crowded into the hallway. The beam shook in his hand as we moved downstairs together. The air felt colder with every step. For a few seconds, all we heard was that thin electric hum dying somewhere in the walls, and then nothing. No wind, no footsteps, just a silence so deep it made my skin crawl. I could feel my heartbeat thudding in my chest, like it was echoing inside my head. Tom aimed the flashlight toward the door. It was still locked. The chair we'd wedged under the handle still in place, but the wood around the frame looked warped, slightly bent inward, as if something had hit it from the other side. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the faint click of the flashlight switch when Tom turned it off and on again, trying to get the beam to stop flickering. That's when we heard it. A soft, steady tapping from one of the windows. Not knuckles, but fingertips. Slow, careful, almost testing. Sarah let out a sound that wasn't quite a scream, more like her breath caught wrong. Tom turned the light toward the window, and the tapping stopped instantly. We stood there, frozen, waiting for it to start again. It didn't. The light from the flashlight caught something wet on the glass. Long streaks, like condensation or handprints. Nobody slept after that. We sat in the living room with the fire burning and the flashlight between us, taking turns watching the windows until dawn. By the morning, the snow was chest deep outside. We were completely cut off. The road back down the mountain was buried, and the plow wouldn't make it through until after Christmas. The generator sputtered around noon and died, leaving us with the fireplace and a few candles. By evening, all of us were sitting around the fire, trying to pretend we weren't listening for noises. When the wind calmed, the silence was suffocating, so still you could hear the wood creak as it cooled. Then, faintly, from somewhere upstairs, came a dull thump, like a door closing. Tom grabbed a flashlight, and I followed him up. The hallway was freezing, our breath coming out in white bursts. Every door was open except mine. It was closed tight, though I hadn't shut it. When I pushed it open, the air that came out was colder than outside. The window was cracked open just enough to let in a stream of snow, and the blanket on the bed was wet. There were bare footprints leading from the window to the door. Small, maybe a woman's or a child's. My skin crawled. Every hair on my arm stood up. I felt dizzy, like the room was tilting, and for a moment, all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. We searched the entire cabin, top to bottom. Nothing, not a sign of anyone else. No one slept after that. We kept the fire burning and sat in a circle, waiting for daylight. Every pop from the logs made Sarah flinch. Around 4 in the morning, I must have drifted off, because when I opened my eyes again, the fire was almost out, and Tom was sitting upright in a chair by the window, staring outside. He didn't answer when I called his name, just raised a hand slowly and pointed. Through the glass, barely visible in the grey light before dawn, was a figure standing at the tree line, motionless, too far to make out details, but close enough that I could see the breath clouding in front of it. Then, without warning, it stepped backward and vanished into the trees. We packed at first light. Nobody said a word. The drive down took twice as long because the snow had iced over. We stopped for gas at the first open station we saw. We didn't go back. None of us even talk about it now. But every year, when the snow starts to fall, I still dream of that cabin, of those small, wet footprints, and the sound of something moving slowly across the porch. It's been years, and I still don't know what was out there. But I know what fear feels like now. It's cold, it's heavy, and it never really leaves. Thanks for watching. No sleep tonight. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It truly helps this channel grow and keep these horrors coming. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, sleep well.